everybody, welcome to Xucaboa 100% Vanilla Baby. I am back. This episode is going to be a review of what has been done in the previous 32 episodes using zero mods. Alright, I am playing on PC, but doing it 100% vanilla. Let's load up our last save, episode 32, the season finale. For those who are returning, welcome back, and for those who are brand new, welcome in the first place. This is Xucaboa, a multilingual vanilla city. We speak Spanish, Portuguese, French sometimes even, and of course I'm speaking in English. Subtitles are available in all those languages. I always like to say thank you, gracias, obrigado to subscribers. If you are new to the channel, just so you know, I do appreciate likes, subscribes, comments. Although I'm not a professional YouTuber, this isn't my primary focus in doing this city. I'm really just trying to have a creative outlet and share my creative process with people who are like-minded and enjoy this game. So if you do like, subscribe, and comment and all that good YouTube type stuff, just know that I will always name things in the city for you. That is an important thing. I have over 200 buildings and places named after people who are watching these videos. So leave a comment, let me know who you are, what you think, and I will be happy to throw you in this city in some way, shape, or form. What we're going to do in this episode is review everything that we had done. And I say we because it really is a group effort here. It's not just me making every decision. I am guided by the people who are watching this, sometimes more, sometimes less, but you're always kind of sending me in certain directions. So we'll just review everything that we had done over the course of 32 episodes, I think taking around 5 months from start to finish. When in September I had to put a pause on this, I had to take a professional hiatus, return from Portugal, where I live, to the United States, where I am from, and take care of some professional and personal things. So I'm back. Well, actually, I guess I'm not really back. You may notice my voice sounds a little bit strange, like I'm speaking on a headset in a helicopter or something like that. That's because I'm using my brother-in-law's computer. I'm actually still in the United States. He's got a pretty capable computer, and I was able to load up my save game from the Steam Workshop, where I have all my save files uploaded, as well as saved in the cloud for my own personal use. So I've reloaded my city here. If some settings seem a bit off, including my voice, that's because this isn't my rig. But I think we're in good shape. So I won't take too much time in explaining what Xucaboa is and what it hopes to be. But that's kind of the point of this episode. And let me start by saying that the first 17 episodes, or maybe even 19, because I think 5.1 and 15.1 were like micro detailing episodes. I didn't count them as full episodes, so it actually might be 34 episodes in total, if you count those. But anyway, the first 17 full episodes took place only in this first tile here, in this map, Roslyn Peninsula. You see here, this is Roslyn Peninsula. If I rotate the camera, you can see the whole peninsula here. Right, this is the south, and this is the north. I've figured that out using the sun, how it rises in the east and sets in the west. So, yeah, I have unlocked my 9 tiles. I did that by, at some point, cheesing a massive grid city to unlock every population milestone. I didn't use any mods to unlock everything. Everything in this city is 100% vanilla because I really want to see what is possible to do without using any mods. I had started playing this game, I think like many people, you get your copy of the game, you play around with it, and you're like, oh man, look at this workshop on Steam. If you're playing on PC on the Steam Workshop, you see there's thousands and thousands of mods and custom assets and really incredible stuff. But it's almost overwhelming, especially at first if you don't really know the game that well. You're just like, oh, I want to download this, and then you get so much that either the game can't run because they're conflicting with each other, or you have not enough system resources, not enough RAM or anything like that to actually run the amount of assets you've downloaded and subscribed to. So I was playing on a laptop. I really didn't get very far before that brick wall was slammed into. And when I upgraded to getting a desktop PC, a gaming, a modest gaming rig that I wanted to get, I started playing vanilla, and I enjoyed it so much that I joined vanilla communities on YouTube and on Facebook in the City Skylines Vanilla Facebook group, where I've really gotten a lot of inspiration from so many other builders, many of whom are subscribers and might even be watching this right now. It's been really a lot of fun learning what is possible without any mods. All right, there are definitely times where I'm like, oh man, I wish I had a mod, or this asset is a little bit cartoony. I really would like to have something a little bit more realistic looking than this. But aside from that, it's been a real exploration to see how you can use the game mechanics that are vanilla and build something that is pretty close, if not even sometimes better, than if you had used mods. I'm trying to go for a photorealistic city here, to more or less as photorealistic as possible without using custom assets, and also trying to do it totally organically, right? This city is an organic, spontaneous growth project. It's not planned in any way except right before I do something and record it. I usually do a practice run just to see that it works and I'm not making a terrible mistake. But otherwise, aside from the practice runs I do off camera, as I'm recording, I'm just going with the flow and seeing what happens and doing little bit by little bit, chipping away at it, seeing what kinds of cool projects I can get into and how I can create visually compelling, aesthetically pleasing, realistic looking skylines, neighborhoods, and things like that. I'm going to unpause the simulation. We are in the year 2103, 2103, and I started this city in March, I think it was, or April maybe, of 2021, which would have been reflected in the game date, the start date. So quite a lot of time has passed, and you see I don't have a huge population. I've got 20,000. I've got an income that fluctuates between super negative and super positive. Well, I believe I'm still trending positive. If I don't touch anything, it will increase. My total balance will increase over time. Doing the management side of this is not my focus, and if that is what you are into when you play this game, there's nothing wrong with that. It's quite enjoyable and a cool challenge many of the times to get this to be a city that has 100% traffic flow and hundreds of thousands of dollars per week in income and a population of 3 jillion. So that is a great way to play the game. That is not, however, what I'm doing here. I am really trying to show what is possible with vanilla building, taking it nice and slow, and doing it's kind of like an art project more than anything for myself personally, that has evolved into this vanilla experiment to see what is possible. So I will just do a really quick highlight of how the city developed right now, stop talking about abstract concepts, and let's get into the real thing. So in the first tile here, this is where we started, and I stayed here for 17 episodes. This highway was stubbed off right here, and I started the city by drawing some dirt roads, curving them in this kind of banana-shaped curve towards here. This is our original town center. All right, I'm not even going to call it a city center because it's even today it's only 20,000. I think that's a town, a large town maybe, or a small town depending on where you come from and what your standards are for that. But this was the city center. This is what I started with, and I kind of expanded a little bit of low density this way. You see, this is the least organic looking section. It's still pretty random in some spots, but here I have a standard kind of grid pattern, a couple of curves thrown in there for good luck. Then I kind of got a little wavy as I branched out, but I kept it low density. These buildings have now all leveled up, and I hadn't marked any of them historical, which is something that I've absolutely done with just about every single building in the later episodes. So I might go back and redo these because I don't like how we've got this strange looking building right next to an identical version of it, but the pool is in the back, in the backyard is next to your driveway. It just doesn't look right or good or pleasing. Plus the detailing over here is pretty low because when I started, I didn't have access to the landscaping or to the park props, things like that. So that is why this area is probably the most plain looking. I will have to come back and really beautify this and develop it a little more too. As the city grows, I think we're going to see an increase in density in some existing neighborhoods. I've already done a little bit of that here on the original main street, Xuca Avenue, which comes to Xuca Center, the name of this district. So you see I've got, a few high density commercial mixed in with the low density, but all of these are historic. These are the exact buildings I want in this exact place. And yeah, these are all chosen. The only low density residential buildings I marked historic in the first several episodes were the very first building that was built, which is this historic hickory house. I was like, there's our first house in the city. We got to mark that. That's going to be a museum someday, right? The original founding settlers of this uninhabited peninsula built a house right here. Although the first citizen was Albert Green, who we saw driving down the highway, Scroggins Highway, and in his red Jeep, I believe it was, and he came and moved right in here with his family. So Albert Green's house is also historic, and like not just marked historical, but it is historic to the city itself. These two buildings were the first two buildings of any consequence for the entire city. But then next to it, there's already been some high-density development, a few smaller mid-rises, I guess, 4 or 5 story buildings, depending on which country you're from and how you count them. So, as the city grows, it's gonna upscale a bit, but it's very important at all times that as I'm putting higher buildings, that I'm creating a skyline, right? Even if it's a small skyline, like look at this building here. This is the tallest building in this area here. No matter where you are, you can see it. And I think that's an important aesthetic thing that I'm always trying to keep in mind if I'm in a place that has just one singular high-rise, or a place that has many high-rises, or a place that has skyscrapers even. I'm trying to keep every single building having its own sense of place and purpose and visual, like if I'm painting a canvas of a skyline, I want my buildings to be unique and special in that skyline, so that when I look at like a silhouette, I'll be like, oh, I know that building, I know that building, I know that building, that one's that one. They all can be seen from different angles. This is something I spend a lot of time on. Hopefully with creative editing, I think I've been doing a decent job not letting it get too boring where I'm just watching buildings grow, but that's a critical part of the whole process here in Xucaboa. For those who are new to the channel too, I should explain why I named the city Xucaboa. First off, the X is pronounced like a sh, so it's Xucaboa. And Xuca is the name of my cat that lives with my girlfriend and I in Lisbon, Portugal. Lisbon, the capital of the country of Portugal, is called Lisboa in Portuguese and other languages. And so Xuca, living in Lisboa, I decided to call this Xucaboa. Now, since I've made this city, I've learned from some Brazilian followers, of whom there are many, because I do subtitles in Portuguese. Xuca has a pretty gross secondary meaning in Brazil. It's not like that in Portugal, that it has no meaning in Portugal. It's just like an animal name. It doesn't really sound like anything. But in Brazil, it means something kind of gross. I won't talk about that. I caution you, if you Google it, beware of what you might find. But, our cat doesn't know. She's a nice cat. I'll throw in a picture right here. That is Xuca the Cat. She is a lot of fun, very hyper, and this city is named for her. So I try to always include little references to her and things. when we're making the videos, the edited videos. This one here is kind of a live walkthrough. But yeah, we started in this first tile, kind of expanded in this direction, very low density. Started to upgrade areas, like this had been an industrial area. A tornado had come through, destroyed it when I still had disasters turned on, so we have the Tornado Memorial Park, the Marcio Technology Institute over here, replacing that Builder Magazine headquarters. Captain Obvious, no more burnt hot dogs. That's a joke that has to do with these types of hot dog looking tanks. I feel like they look like hot dogs. So they caught fire all the time when I had fire spreading enabled. And I've turned that off now because I have so many trees that the entire city would burn down if I had fire spreading enabled. Normally I have the day and night cycle turned on, but you see I've turned that off just for this video so we can do a tour without having it become dark. So anyway, as we get out of this, what was once the outskirts of town, this rural farming community on the fertile land in Farmington by the Sala de Jogo Socorro, we head over here. We have our first custom interchange, which was a really cool project that I was happy to do and learn from. Like many people who play the game, this is one of the first real personal challenges you have to overcome, is like, how do I build something that doesn't look totally bad? So this was something I built that wasn't totally bad. I didn't have to download it from the workshop or anything. And then when I got onto this side of town, I started to have access to landscaping, so I built this canal area. I dug out a lower neighborhood and used European high-density buildings in certain patterns to get the illusion that they are circular buildings. In this area, this is the Canal District. Pretty cool. This is absolutely where I started marking, if not, like, these don't need to mark historical because they only ever grow into that style, but these ones I had to. So this is where I started really marking buildings historical. And up here, where it's not European, I started marking them historical to get the absolute correct look I wanted. And you see I'm not filling every blank space with buildings. I'm trying to create a lot of green areas, a lot of natural type of places. We have this bison preserve over here in the Felipe G National Forest. This was a national forest, and I decided not to develop in here at all because I saw a wild bison roaming around right about here by the Fire Hilo Depot. There are animals in this map. Bison and cougars are the only ones I've seen so far. I think that's it. But now I've created this kind of natural space where they can live and roam. And there are other places on the map too where we've seen them. Over here by the oil refinery, for example. I know I've seen a bison. Maybe if we're lucky, we'll catch one. Anybody? Come on. I'm recording. Give me something. Alright, we'll come back. That's fine. That doesn't matter. I've built small communities on the outskirts here, like this town of Pickling. Right? That is very low density, suburban feel in the forest, the mountains. And I've masked this processing facility. This is kind of like what this town is known for. It's based loosely on Corning, New York, which is known for its glass factory. So since we have the glass plant, the Charles City Skylines glass plant, the CS fiberglass plant, and some ore industry assets here. You got the Sergeeki Gamer and keep the kilns and grinding mills. This is a landscaping challenge to put huge assets that cause pollution in a way that look nice, that the pollution is fairly masked, and that you have a population here that can work in this area. So one of the interesting projects I did here with the @BrainGamer IG Metal and Glass Company, I was happy to do that. I did a video on how to extract all of the resources because, like I said, I'm not playing with any mods. So all the ore that had been in this mountain is now extracted. You can see where there's ore on the outside of the tile that I couldn't access. So I can get to 5-star. I did the same with the oil industry over here. Built this refinery over towards the edge of the map with a tanker dock. The idea, I've worked on oil tankers in the past, and this is based loosely on a refinery that I've been to. So I put in this tanker dock. It's not functional. Obviously, there's no oil tankers. But it bothers me how in the game, if you extract oil, it is transported via truck, via tanker truck, to either, leave by the highway, which is fine. There are tanker trucks, but it never goes on a tanker ship. It's containerized. So imagine they're filling drums of, barrels full of oil and putting them in containers and then putting them on a container ship. That makes no sense. You put them on an oil tanker ship because that makes sense. So I did this just because I wanted to. If there was a DLC that put oil tankers in there, I would be a bit happier. But it's also not that green friendly, the oil business, and I like how this game is forcing me to think about the environmental consequences of our actions. If you're developing a forest, are there animals, or is there going to be pollution in the water? How do we get more people walking and biking and using parks and green spaces? Right, we've got our Jungle Beach here, rural area. We have our Compass Hill Park. This was a really fun project that I did. Very, very happy with how this turned out visually and functionally too. It works very nicely. It's a 5-star zoo, I think it is, because we ended up using the zoo gate. But it doesn't matter. I could have used any gate and still put in the zoo asset, the aviary, or the Javieri. Great, fun park. A lot of vanilla muscle I was flexing when I built this. I was really like, let's do something wild. So I used the flat rocks and made these cliffs and put in this huge place. I'm really happy with that. Most of this first tile is pretty flat though. Unlike this hill was already kind of here. So I used that, but because I didn't have access to landscaping and I had a much smaller budget at the time, I couldn't do any terrain work over here. I was very limited. I could put a little bit of dirt here for the interchange mounds, I guess. When I took some soil out of this area, I got some to work with, but really not a lot I could do. So this is a place I'll either architecturally upgrade or use landscaping to kind of make the scene a little bit more compelling, because it is pretty flat, pretty low density, not that exciting at this point. Here we have the Roslyn crew hashtag, placed comically poorly, I guess. I think it could be straighter and more professional looking, but I liked it because it's at a high school. It doesn't want to be too serious. I don't want to take anything here too seriously. So this is a hashtag we use in the Facebook group, which and on Instagram too. Anyone who builds in Roslyn Peninsula map, which comes with campus DLC, I'm going to say you're a member of the Roslyn crew for life, whether you want to or not. Over here, this area was a lot of fun, where I really started to try to do a distinctly themed neighborhood as opposed to just one like over here, where I was like, let's just build a nice place and see what we get. Here I wanted to do something that was reminding me of a place in real life, and so I did this historic industrial waterfront, this old kind of like late 19th century waterfront that has upgraded over time and been repurposed things. But we have the Joe Franta Fresh Fish Market, we have the Pebbles and Luna Clock Tower, named after 2 other cats, by the way. You see the clock is stuck on noon while we have day and night cycle turned off. If I were to turn that back on, it would keep spinning. Have our tram depot, the Tri-Seater tram depot, next to our Bruno B Bridge. So this reminds me both of New York City and Lisbon. Elements of both cities are very present in this waterfront. And those are 2 waterfronts that I've spent a lot of time in real life. So that was my goal there. Here in the latest district of Balcon, where I wanted to throw in some skyscrapers before I took off for the few months I was away, I built a new Build Cities archway, and I used this new bridge from the Content Creator Pack, the European 6-lane, to create a retaining wall effect with some bamboo underneath. I thought I'd never seen anyone do anything like that before. I've seen plenty. I myself and many others have had a lot of fun using the keys, using a flooding technique to put in keys as seawalls, but instead of seawalls, putting them in as retaining walls for land. I've done that in a few places in the city. But I never saw anyone do it with a road, and for good reason. I think it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense from a practical perspective, but I tried to do it in a way where I have this tram street just alongside of it. This way all the buildings face out when they're zoned, and it looks like it's just a retaining wall, but it also does have some vehicles. It's not super utilized at this point, but it gives access to the Bruno B Bridge. So you go this way, and then you can turn onto this suspension bridge here, crossing the inlet that the big Q57 had accurately identified as being an inlet instead of a bay. I guess this would be more of the bay. Then, of course, we have Il Cachalot, which I had done after I unlocked the second tile, and the rest of the tiles I actually kind of all unlocked them all right at the same time, all 9 tiles after I got the first one. So in Il Cachalot, named because it looks like a cartoon whale, which was a complete accident. Look at this, it's got the tail here, you got the body, you got the little fin, you got the eyeball, it's got this big old whale head, it's even got a little spout. All of this was completely accidental. And then one day I looked at it, I was like, that's a whale if ever I saw one. So we've got the whale here in Il Cachalot. Cachalot is the French term for sperm whale, and we've named this Lomond Square after Lomond, who already had a hotel Lomond. After he had done a replica version of this city on Xbox and sent the video. It was incredible. You should watch it in the, I believe it's the Vanilla Slums episode, towards the end of my last season, where I show that. It was really awesome. But over here, I started to do some high density. I didn't want this to be like the big city of Xucaboa. I was thinking that would be more in this large area with its kind of main skyline point right here. But I did want it to be dense. I wanted it to have some higher buildings, some mid-rises, and maybe even high-rises occasionally, you know, but also some low density. I want this to be a very mixed neighborhood. See, we've got the Lazaret Plaza as kind of the town center, maybe, and then if you look, I know the sun is on the other side, so these are all pretty dark. Might be dark on your screen, depending on if you're using your phone or a computer or whatever, but this was like the first big skyline in the city. You have this water tower, the Anthony M. Water Tower. You have the Ciudadópolis radio mast in the distance. Oh, nice clicking. All right. Yeah, Ciudadópolis radio mast. So you've got some tall things. You've got the Zephyr B media building, which has a radio or broadcast antenna, I guess. I don't know if it's also TV. Probably. And some satellites. So these are all like high points. You've got the Leal Mafor wind turbine or turbine up here. So you got a few things poking up. You got the Hotel Roman. You got this hotel, Best Eastern. That's a interesting name. And the Victoria Residence. These buildings haven't been named. If anyone wants them, let me know. We got the cable car going up the mountain. This whole island, which I've turned into an island by adding this canal, had a lot of terrain work put down. It doesn't look like it now, which is the point, right? I've covered up a lot of things with trees, but otherwise I've done a lot of terracing where I make like flat steps going up, so that way the buildings can have layers to them. The terrain can have layers. I built this vanilla slum here using park props, and if you zoom in super close, you can see that they're just park props stacked up on top of each other. But if you zoom out even just a tiny bit, it really gives the impression that it's a slum. And this was a challenging project to figure out the best way to do it. Very happy with how it turned out. But yes, there was a lot of terrain work going into the expect to see a little Xuca right there. Going into the landscaping and terrain work with this island, because I haven't really played around with this side of it, and you see it's quite high up above sea level. At this point, it's what, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, over 70 meters above sea level at its tallest spot. It creates this big dramatic cliff, and then it just kind of sloped down to this beach. So I was like, how do I build a city on a slope? And the answer is terracing. You just gotta kind of create steps, fill in the gaps with some stuff. I went really heavy on the jungle trees because there were already a lot of vanilla palm trees and other jungly type of trees in this area. I want to retain the character of the original flora, if and when possible. So that's Roman Square. Let's see, we got Balcon, which is the name of this neighborhood. I named it Balcon because it looks like it's on a balcony. Got the Captain Obvious Discord HQ, front and center. And I think we covered just about everything. I mean, I could get into a lot more detail, but I don't want, this video is already 30 minutes. So we'll just take a quick look at this, and let me tell you what the plans are, possible plans for the future. Like I said, this is all very spontaneous, but we do want to fill this map as much as we can. We have some really challenging terrain in the future, like Opie Mountain, named for my #1 fan, Opie, coming from South Africa. He's been asking me since the day he was born. He said, when you gonna put buildings up in that mountain? When you gonna work on that mountain? So I'm getting there. It's coming. I think we might have some, we'll have to figure out a way to get traffic either around the side of the mountain or upgrade the infrastructure here through West Canal by the National Forest, because this right now is still very low density, low capacity rather, for vehicles. And I can see this is already a bit of a choke point next to a bit of a choke point in terms of capacity. So we're going to have to upgrade that, get something a little bit more robust, especially if we're going to take advantage of the industrial rail access or maybe even a harbor, right? We've got this cool island here with trenches and pillboxes and some guns defending this strategic harbor. But we've got no harbor here, so we'll have to figure out the way to get the harbor asset to actually have that straight line that comes out. That's one of the downsides of vanilla, is you can't actually have ships turn into a harbor. They have to go straight at it from sea, which is that's not really how it works in real life, but I'll get over that one day. You'll see. And yeah, we've got this large area, Sector Charlie. You see I've used gravel paths to kind of make notes of that Sector Golf over here, Sector Opie Mountain. We'll call that Sector Charlie. Got the original compass that I used. I transferred from Compass Hill over here. Sector Delta, again, another slope, pretty substantial slope, right on the edge of the map too. Instead of going to a cliff like over here, it goes to the mountain. So we'll have to figure out a smart way to do something really cool on this terrain here. Maybe rework this highway and rail connection, or who knows? I don't know. We're not there yet, but just kind of thoughts for the future. Sector Delta got a huge flat area here, a little too flat if you ask me. I do want there to be terrain, so I'm going to probably suck up terrain from somewhere else and throw it all over the map, create some hills and bumps for a little bit more of a visually compelling landscape. But yeah, there's plenty of room. We got the Grottles Expressway that cuts across. We put this in, that connects to our major system interchange over here by Pickling with the original vanilla highway that goes through. And we've got the refinery, and in between we have Isla Isaura, which is, I think that this could be a really cool, historic, landmarky type of place, because we already have this castle ruins here. But there's going to have to be some work. It's got a lot of potential with these two rivers. Maybe put some quays, get some real European, or at least old vibe going on, historic vibe. Yeah, where else could we end up going? I did mark an anchor here because I thought this was a nice natural harbor that also has a straight line to the sea connection. So that could be a place we go. And yeah, looking at the rest of the map, I mean, I think I covered it all. That's about all that's left. I think I might have another day to use my brother-in-law's computer. And so before I return to Portugal, I'm going to get this episode done, and maybe I'll get in another one where we name some streets or something that I don't really have to spend too much time editing, because I don't have access to a lot of the editing tools on my computer. But I hope this has been a good refresher of what Xucaboa is, and a glimpse into your creative visions for what it might become. We've got a lot of work left to do, I am taking it nice and slow. There's no rush. I'm not going to zone an entire tile's worth in one episode, so don't worry about that. Plenty of things still happening. Stay tuned. In 2022, I will be doing Xucaboa, maybe till completion, but I don't know. It took me 5 months to get this much. I can't imagine doing this in 12 months. That's a lot of work. So, just something to keep checking in on. I'll try to do a little bit by little bit. Always trying to push the envelope, coming with new creative uses for objects, buildings, making connections in a... everything here is got to be visually compelling is the term I'm going to use. Aesthetically pleasing is a bit subjective, but visually compelling, I think, is a bit more objective, because whether or not you like it yourself, like aesthetically pleasing is a very personal thing, but visually compelling, I think, is closer towards an objective statement, right? You can say that this is certainly more interesting than a flat city with a rectangular grid. And that's the idea. I will also be making a Roslyn Peninsula based modded series, which is what I wanted to do even before I had started this vanilla series, and I put that on the back burner a long time ago while I was doing this, because I had so much fun doing this. But while I've been away, I've been thinking a lot about doing my historic series called Xucaboa, which means the study of the history of the city of Xucaboa. And it won't be this city, right? I'm not going to develop it exactly like this, but it is a Roslyn Peninsula map that I've modified to be really challenging terrain, and I'm going to start from the Paleolithic era, creating little tribal villages that evolve through stages that follow loosely the timeline of the real city of Lisbon, right? The real city of Lisbon having been occupied by Paleolithic peoples, and then Celtic and Iberic tribes, and then the Romans, and the Phoenicians, and the Carthaginians, and the Moors, the Visigoths. I'm kind of going out of order here, but and finally the Portuguese, about 600. No, I guess the whole Iberia was 600 years ago. The Portuguese got there a little bit earlier. So a lot of different peoples coming through and making their mark on a historic city. Excited to do it both as a learning project. It's encouraging me and forcing me to look up some facts about the city I live in now, Lisbon, Portugal. But also it'll be a lot of fun to play with mods again, and now that I have a much better understanding of the mechanics of the game, hopefully I can manipulate them and bend them to my will, so I create something that is really awesome. But this is still my 100% vanilla baby, and I love my baby. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I think I've been rambling a little bit towards the end here. I'll cut it off now. Thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for episodes in the future, and I will see you next time.